Hi and welcome to the video tarot forecast for April. I'm so sorry about how late this is. I was looking at Mercury retrograde coming up a couple of weeks ago and thinking, oh, that's fine. I was born during Mercury retrograde. How bad can it get? And then I find that not only do I have to submit to 5,000 word essays within a few weeks, but I also have to move house as well, and it's school vacations, and it's raining outside. So everyone is in the house and has been sworn to absolute silence. So I'm really sorry if any sounds sneak in from anyone else around the house. So please, my apologies for the slightly all over the place demeanor of your presenter. Hopefully that will not translate to a slightly all over the place reading, but let's just see what the cards have to say. Right, I'm just going to adjust this. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick intro for any of you who are new. For those of you who are familiar with the video tarot forecast, this is pretty much, it's the same every time, but it's always a good idea anyway to have things put back firmly at the front of the mind. It's a 3-card reading, and the 3 cards have specific positionings attached to them. So the first one on the left is the foundational card. It's essentially something that's still valid now, that is still active, that has already happened or is in the process of happening or passing. But it carries a residual quality that then comes in and interacts with the second card, which is the current weather. That is, so you're looking at this then reaction between these 2 cards to create a set of inner and outer circumstances that are really the prevailing weather for the next 4 weeks. I know that this is coming later on in April than I had planned or had wanted, but it is for the next 4 weeks. And then if next month's video tarot forecast comes out earlier, then there's going to be an overlap, but there normally is. I mean, I've looked back at video tarot forecasts and they are still relevant now. And they have been done, a few months ago, particularly the one in January, which is free to view for anyone on my channel. So it's the foundation card, then interacting with the current weather, and then the final card is the agency card. It's the tool. It's the one thing that you can use in a way that gives you a point of leverage where you can work with what's happening. You might not be able to influence what's happening. That's not really it. I don't want to call it the control card, but rather it's how you can align with what's happening. That's more like it. So it's a way of being able to make the most of what's going on, or to mitigate what's going on, depending on how you feel about what it is that the first 2 cards are saying to you. So I'm going to draw the 3 cards. And as always, I'm not going to turn them all over at once. I'm going to turn them over one at a time. So this is your foundation card, which is the Princess of Swords. It's a court card that generally refers then to an aspect of one's personality. It could be another person outside you, or it could be something that you can personify, an institution, a company, a group of people, but very often it will be something that's in you as well. So the court cards are often, people find them quite hard to read. The reason I always say that this is true is because it is harder to get away from oneself when one is that close to a mirror. And the Princess of Swords, as one of the court cards, is the mirror. It is the mirror of personality. It's what we are aware of as to how we are being and what we're doing, and what we are not yet aware of as to what is working through us in terms of personality. Princess of Swords, princesses, which are equivalent to the pages in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, are really the initiators of the court cards. They hold an incredibly important position, particularly from a Kabbalistic point of view. Now, my expertise is not that, but what I do know is that the princesses, particularly if you're working with something like the Thoth Tarot, and this deck, the Röhrig deck, is influenced by the Thoth in some respects, is that they are the initiators of the suit. They are the ones who set things off. They are the genesis of the suit. So the Princess of Swords is the genesis of swords. She is the mind, but the beginner's mind. So the swords are ruled by air in terms of elements, and they govern the mind, they govern thoughts, they govern beliefs, they govern the spoken word, they govern the written word, they govern rule of law. So it's intellect. It's the intellect that's there, and the Princess of Swords is the initiatrix of the intellect. And as you can see here, her headdress is covered with eyes. It's that insight, it's that ability to see. She is young, but the way that she is looking, although her gaze is not directly at us, no, it's off slightly to one side. And there's a certain sort of coyness to the side. There isn't. It's almost like she's a bit of a coiled snake, really. And you can see here that she has used the sword to liberate herself. There are ropes and chains that have been broken around her wrist. So it is through her keen eyesight and through her ability then to act on that eyesight with that sword, which is sheathed down the side of her arm now. She's not warlike, but she knows what to do with it. It is the initiation into something, or perhaps even the initiation out of something, to be able to free oneself from circumstances that then allows somebody to step into something new. So here, let's say we say that the Princess of Swords is a quality that's working through you, or is asking to be held with awareness as something that can be. Then where is it that, and this is the foundational card, so this is already, it's already happened, or there's some kind of residual effect of this. Where was it that some form of liberation took place? And use that word broadly. So liberation, it may be that you have left a particular set of circumstances, but it may also be liberation as in the shedding of a skin of yourself by through being able to use your mind. So it's liberation through the mind, speaking out for oneself or on behalf of oneself, and using words as very, very precise ways of undoing the fetters that hold you back. And those fetters may have been put there by other people. It may be that they have been put there by limiting beliefs or perceptions that you felt that went unquestioned, and perhaps it was that you've questioned them, and therefore there is a sense of freedom. And there's that sort of coiled snake kind of feeling that I've got with the Princess of Swords here, of a sense of growing empowerment because of this. So what it is that she has been through has empowered her to know what she is now capable of. And so that is then what you're bringing into the current environment. And so the current environment now is the Eight of Wands, swiftness. So now we've gone out of the card that, or a swords card that is based on intellect, and we have gone back into to the initiating suit of the deck, which is the Wands card, which is the least incarnate of the cards. And Wands are fire. So you've gone from air to fire. You've gone from the intellect back to this creative oomph that we have. It is pre-verbal, it is pre-emotional, it is that fire. And if you look at the Eight, it comes fairly far along in the incarnation of how wands sort of work their way into the world. And if you look at the preceding card, well, let's look at the two cards before. The Six of Wands is a breakthrough. It is a way of, it's called victory in this deck. The path is cleared for the time being. There's suddenly a way through. And then what happens is there is the Seven of Wands, which in this deck is called valor. And having had that way through, there now needs to be a risk that has to be taken. In other words, there is something that one needs to, I don't like saying gamble, but there's something that one needs to get out of their comfort zone for. And it very often is a sense of, again, one's own limitations. So this is where the Seven of the Wands and the Swords work well, because so the Seven of Wands preceding this card is about having to push oneself beyond one's limits. Now, if you couple that with the Princess of Swords, then you really do have a powerful formula for a kind of jumping off to the other side, which is the Seven of Wands is this figure leaping across the chasm. I see that the chasm of some kind of abyss. some sense of the unknown, very much probably in oneself as much as it is outside in the world. There will be some resistance, and then moving into the Eight of Wands here, which is where the energy really picks up. So swiftness in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, for instance, is a whole group of wands flying through the air. There are no human figures in sight. It's as if something else has taken over. That leap over the chasm in the Seven has created some kind of momentum that is its own thing. And this is really what the Eight of Wands is. And here the card is quite specific. It is, this can precede the meeting of somebody. You can see there's a sort of mind meld, an energetic mind meld going on between a masculine or two masculine figures and feminine. If you notice, there's a sort of two faces there, and then the single feminine face. So this can precede the meeting of somebody. It may not necessarily be a romantic relationship, but one thing it will be is that it will be fiery. And again, you can use fiery broadly. It could be creative, it could be erotic, it could be highly charged. It's not necessarily going to be a peaceful meeting, but if you have this kind of nuclear fusion, then you are able, if you can contain that nuclear fusion, and then you can work with it. So there's a way of aligning or containing. Actually, I don't even know if you can contain it in a way, because once that energy's been released, it's been released. So what it is it's more about aligning with it. So possibly the third card will help you to know how to align. So I'm going to have a look at this card and see if there's any writing that stands out. As far as I can tell, Carl Röhrig has decided that it is only German that he is going to be writing on this card. Yep, only German. So what I will say is that there is an intrigue here with me with the fact that there's always been this double masculine face here. And one of them has a moustache, one of them doesn't. My sense about how to interpret this is that you will know what this means. It may be that the circumstances are quite unique to you, even though this is a reading for many people. It may be that you, each of you who sees this, will understand what this means. It may be that there are two other people that you are quite literally facing, or you might be two people facing another person. It might be a sense of the needing to bring together two halves. It could be it could be all kinds of interesting alliances or permutations of this. But when in doubt, go inside. Who is it that you are immediately identifying with here? The faces on the left or the faces on the right? Which one is it? Or the face on the left and the faces on the right? Which one is it? Because then it's interesting to see how you would be in relation to the other one that's looking back at you. It may be that the Princess of Swords is the figure on the left as well. So you'll have to see. But this is kinetic energy. It is kinetic. It may not necessarily be able to be controlled, but let's see if you can align with it in some way. It is hugely creative, and to align with it, you have to make a choice. That's it. You have to make a choice. Who is it that you are going to get into bed with? And I mean that possibly literally. I definitely mean it figuratively. Where is it that you are going to come down on one side or the other? Where is it that you're going to put your energy? One of the other things about the Lovers card is it is about immanence, not transcendence. So we had a Swords card, which is about the mind, which is masculine, it's up there. Wands card, that is fire, it's masculine, it's directed. And then you've got the Lovers, which is from an esoteric point of view, is immanence. It is the feminine. It is the embodiment. It is the lowering of spirit into matter. So it is all of this stuff that is zooming around in here, zinging around, in terms of the ether, and bringing it down and in to matter. It is about the descent into being human. So, and when that happens, when there is that descent into matter, we are then descended into limitation, because we are descended into bodies, we are descended into identities, and then we have to make choices. We make choices based on the fact that that things are now within limits, that we are now in a world of polarities, we are in a world of oppositions, and therefore there are choices to be made based on that. And so who is it that you were going to get into bed with? What is it that you are going to get into bed with? Be careful, because, you know, sleep is vulnerable. It's also incredibly intimate. Be discerning about what it is that that you choose to align with and partner with. But also, if you do this, then the consequences could be incredibly productive and incredibly powerful as well. And remember, you have the Princess of Swords. She speaks up on your behalf. If you have any questions or comments, please do get in touch with me. I'm going to send this off now, otherwise it isn't going to happen. See you next month. Bye.